What can I say, guys? I really, really love watching Age of Empires. You know, it's like, yeah, I think for me as well, like 1v1s, it's like, I find myself very stressful and very kind of perfectionist about everything. So I tend to be very hard on myself when I misplay even a little bit, and that kind of snowballs, which is why it's just nice for me to watch high-level plays. And this is kind of the beauty, guys. This is why I got into casting. This is the thing that I love the most about it, right? Is, you know, when a player goes to a tournament, if they win the tournament, they're going to feel better than I'll ever feel, right? From casting it, possibly. But I always get to feel good, right? At least when I'm working the tournaments, not so much when I get rejected or kicked off or don't even get in the first place. But when I'm working the tournament, no matter who wins, right, in these games, I'm always excited, I'm always happy. I don't bet on anyone. I watch it. I bathe in it. I love the good Age of Empires. And that's exactly what I'm expecting here. Because DeMuslim, well, he's got quite the conundrum today. Playing China in the blue, he's up against Abbasids in the red. But the conundrum is this, folks. It is Dick the birthday boy. It's Dick's birthday. Now, is DeMuslim going to be a villain? Is he going to ruin the birthday boy's day? Or is he going to give the gift of ELO rating to Dick? Let's find out in this 1v1. And looking at this map generation, quite balanced, I want to say, for the most. It pivots to the left both sides. But I've seen some really ridiculous generations of this. I forget the name of the map. Yeah, it's King of the Hill, wasn't it? Yeah. So on King of the Hill, I have, in the past, seen some absurd generations where all the gold veins end up on one player's side. In this game, however, there is a slight edge, I'd say, maybe for DeMuslim. But for the most, this is kind of fair. It's not absurd. There's definitely gold on both sides. Stone actually... okay, no. Stone is where this gets to be a ripoff. Look at this for DeMuslim. You're playing China on King of the Hill, and the majority of the stone is on your side of the map. I guess you could say DeMuslim should keep this seed generation written down somewhere. And I hope this game doesn't end up as filthy as that laugh. So, opening-wise, Absid Dynasty, early drop on the House of Wisdom. Now, we have seen some players choose to delay the placement of this a little bit, primarily due to the fact that you don't really need it immediately. Like, you need it in prep for when you have the 400 food, 200 gold, right? So some players like to just get that little bit of extra efficiency early on, ensure that they keep the production rates up, maybe get like a mill down on the berry bush, which you're playing Absid Dynasties, you absolutely should do. So I don't like Dick's opening that much. I think he should have used the wood to pay for the mining camp, the lumber camp, and then put a mill here. And then you should have moved all these villagers across onto the berry bush line, right? Which would have got doubled in quantity. Remember, they go from 250 to 500 on each of these bushes when you're playing Absid Dynasty. And Absid Dynasty, you have that increased gather rate that puts it in line with that of the gather rates of sheep. And then what you end up having is you have the sheep as a fallback plan if you ever get pressured early. I think it's not the end of the world in this match specifically just because China isn't a rush-type civ. But if he was up against, say, Mongols, if he was up against even England, these type of civs that do a lot immediately in feudal age, they try to apply pressure militarily, that's when I think you should always be playing with a mill opening. I will say it's more efficient. I definitely think Dick should have done it regardless, but this isn't a game where I see him getting punished for failing to do that. And look at that, straight already into the eco wing, so got the gathered requirement quite quickly here. Meanwhile, over into Muslim's base, he's a little bit shy on the gold front, because remember, DeMuslim, we've been seeing this a lot from Chinese players. They neglect the gold front for quite a while, simply just trying to function off the back of taxes. So he will now get the tech up, but in some regards is delayed. That being said, he has got the added efficiency right from the Imperial official, just buffing up the food income. So that's why you can see when they begin this tech up, look how much more healthy DeMuslim is at this stage. And they are even on the eco front, right? You can see 17 to 17. Really should be maybe one villager lead for Dick. I'm a bit surprised by that. Did he slip up, maybe? I feel like he must have slipped up somewhere, right? Because remember, the DeMuslim would have had to have gone for the Imperial official, which costs you a lot of food, by the way, not to mention it costs you the same length of time as a villager. And DeMuslim going into the Imperial Academy, something we don't see frequently with these China players. Usually it's always the Barbican the Sun that comes out, right? Because you just want to get that extra layer of defense because you're not really that active of a civ in the second age. I think from DeMuslim's mindset, like right now he's saying, I'm up against an Abbasid player. Abbasid players don't tend to rush hard early on. The unit types that they build into are more reactionary than like aggressive in feudal age. So I think I can get away with this to try and eco boom myself. But with all being said and done, age timings are going to match up, and this is where now you can see fresh food stuffs being planned. And also, remember, DeMuslim, he hasn't gone on the stone yet. So Dick is looking for that secondary TC, and if both of them choose to not be aggressive, I do give Dick the edge at this kind of progression, right? Like, I think for DeMuslim right now, he needs to get on the stone himself, get a second TC. But I think his mindset is maybe he feels like if he expands too far out, he's going to be the one getting punished here. But little does he know what we know, right? I think when you think about these two civs and the way they match up and people's experiences recently in pub games, at the highest level across the board, an Abbasid player blind in these matchups will feel like he can get away with a lot more than a Chinese player. Having said that, they do both have vision on each other's base, though, so I do expect some sort of switch up, whether it's into, for example, archers early for China, we see that a lot, or maybe the Abbasid want to get active for some, horsemen or something. But for now, Dick secures the required resources for that second TC. He's going to drop it right next to his primary one, just playing that kind of tight economy in case he does have to come under fire from the Chinese player in this game. And I think it's a smart play overall. So DeMuslim, if he was to get aggressive in Feudal Age, it would probably be off the back of archers, as we mentioned. And that means if you're playing a very tight economy where TC covers TC, then you're just going to keep booming villages, but you're not going to have to worry about this far-off TC that can't protect everyone inside it, and possibly you just lose several of those villages on that expansion. Instead, he can just centralize, where against a ranged army, he'll be well protected. I would love to see DeMuslim engage with the Zhugnu, by the way. Not really something we've been seeing in the past as much. I think the main person that came to mind is we saw Viper run it against a Roost player. Incredibly effective against horse archers or any unarmored units. But outside that, we haven't really seen Zhugnu too often. I think Viper is the only player we've seen building them. Zhugnu, for those that don't remember, as you can see here, you have to get in the Song Dynasty. So that does mean if DeMuslim wants to do that, first of all, he will have to go back to the Barb in the Sun. It just feels to me like DeMuslim is not going to go Barb in the Sun. This is, in theory, a really cool idea. So Barb in the Sun, for what it is only really a great idea if you build it first, in my opinion. Right? You tend to get this as a preemptive play against harassment early on. If you're not being harassed, though, you can do exactly what DeMuslim is doing, which is going straight into the clock tower. So he's actually saved himself 400 food, 200 gold. Now, the only issue I do have with this is because he didn't go for a second TC, and he's playing against an Abbasid Dynasty player, and he should have scouted out the second TC. He's going to be at a distinct disadvantage on the economy. So DeMuslim really has to get some pressure onto Dick's base in the next 5 minutes. Unless, of course, this is part of the plan, guys. Unless, of course, DeMuslim is genuinely allowing the birthday boy to blow out his candles. It's just, although I'm okay with you letting the birthday boy blow out his candles, I would advise against letting Dick eat the whole cake. I never thought I'd say that statement. It sounds kind of weird saying it. But yes, you definitely need to start applying pressure, because when you look at the villager count right now, it's 29 for DeMuslim, 33 for Dick, and this will continue to accelerate, remember, because it's 2 TCs versus the 1. Now, one cool thing for DeMuslim, of course, is he doesn't lose out too much economy on the tech up, because, remember, quicker build rates for China. That's actually a cool thing to highlight in this matchup specifically, right? Is while Dick can't accelerate his research timings for the landmarks, for the tech ups, the military wings just research, right? You don't invest villages in it. And that's the difference. That's something we highlighted before. Abbasid Dynasty, it's the reason that they're probably the most efficient civ, this kind of mid-game eco boom, is because they don't actually pull workers away to tech up at all, right? Which means that the early economy is not going to be dented. And keep in mind how important that is, right? Like, you can talk about how inconsequential having, 10 villages giving you your imperial timing when you got 100 villages is. But think about, like, in the early stage, like, some people investing 7 villages when they have 30 villages. That's a much larger percentage of your villager base, and essentially a much larger quantity of your income at that stage of the game. And remember that the way income scales is exponential, right? As you have more villages working and you regurgitate more and you up those production rates, you're able to field more. So if you take more villagers away to take an extra minute out of their day of farming lands or tilling fields or going and chopping down trees, then that's going to actually impact your later timings 5-10 minutes down the line. So, movement out by Dick. Walls going down as well. DeMuslim still has eyeballs inside the compound at this stage, though. Just a little bit of pressure coming out. DeMuslim, he is now bringing out the Palace Guard. So I like this. I wanted to see some pressure. He's going to start applying that pressure. And I believe, is he actually supervising? No, it looks like he's not supervising. So this is just normal production rates on the Palace Guard. So now Blacksmith has been completed. And I imagine he's just going to look for, yeah, the Ironlander mesh. Because his concern right now is if he's looking to aggress into the Abyss's base and the Abyss player is kind of just tanking, then he's going to be in a situation where his biggest threat is going to be these TCs, right? But as we can see, something that DeMuslim can't, because, you know, his scout is locked on this side trying to prevent the walls going up, there's been a switch. There's been a switch in choices here. Dick with a triple Rax drop, something we see a lot actually out of Abyss Dynasty. It's probably the most frequented choice to get ready for those men-at-arms because he has completed the tech up. So he's going to be in Castle right now. 3 Raxes now can start producing in the men-at-arms, and he'll have the counter to the Palace Guard. Palace Guard, I believe, I can't remember if it's more health, but slightly less resistance. We'll see in a second. We can actually check the direct matchups as soon as they spawn them. But in the meantime, the Palace Guard getting some good hits in, forcing the villager line back, so no wood now being gathered. Of course, Dick doesn't really care about that much. He's got the infrastructure he needs. He just needs food and gold now. So if you're DeMuslim, your priority should be shutting that out. Now villager going to be sniped down. Palace Guard, pretty tanky, like we said. This is why he went for them, so they could dive the TC and not care. They're not fast like Knights, sure. But they are very tanky, and in that regard, cost-effective for diving like this. So men-at-arms come out. It's 155, and there you go. So you can see it's actually the melee difference. These men-at-arms have slightly more melee resistance. The range resistance is because the Palace Guard had the tech up, right? Like he went for the Blacksmith research with the Undermesh. So usually these Palace Guard, not as tanky. But they're doing the business right now. They're causing pure anarchy. The man-at-arms are trading evenly with the Palace Guard, and they haven't got equal number just yet. They finally get up to 6. And that will force DeMuslim away. But remember, the other thing about the Palace Guard is they move so much quicker. It's 1.12 compared to the 1.38. That's why they have less armor. And that's why they're so effective when you use them early, is he just goes back in under the gold line. And he'll delay the men-at-arms arriving with that 1 weak Palace Guard. And that'll give him time to snipe out 2, maybe 3 more of these villagers. Nicely played by DeMuslim on the micro. And he needed this damage, right? He needed this impact. We talked about the fact that he's going to be behind because he's on that 1 TC to 2. So it's very important that he keeps sniping out this eco and keep disrupting it. Because Dick, now, sitting at 49 compared to the 41 of DeMuslim. DeMuslim continuing to just narrow that lead that Dick has in the economy department. And now DeMuslim, sneaking to the back side of the map, has got another mill down, switching into farmlands as well as hunting on the deer here. So not really an option to go for boars in this game, by the way, before anyone's curious about what's going to happen there. These are very far out on the side. Usually you want that kind of natural flow towards the center of the map, and they're not there at all. So I don't really expect anyone to be going for boars. DeMuslim, more Palace Guard in, but so many man-at-arms now, starting to become a little bit problematic. Overall, though, incredibly tanky on these Palace Guard, as you're still seeing. But just matched by the man-at-arms, so going to need to switch up now at DeMuslim. In the meantime, he's going to keep producing these Palace Guard. In fact, he's upping the production rates, right? Building more of these racks. Needs a better solution, though. He hasn't actually done anything on the siege front yet. You can see he's actually prepping for it now. So he is getting the greased axles. The purpose of this is, right now, with his Streakelin, if you start to go for these Springles, they'd be very slow to move across the map, very exposed, very vulnerable. He wants to make sure he's got the important researches done first before he starts investing heavily into Springles, considering although they're tanky, they do still cost 200 gold and 200 wood. I believe we did get some tweaks to Springles, right? Like that was one of the big things that... Did they get old in the end? No, they... Oh, that's right. They didn't actually... They didn't change Springles directly. They changed everything that might kind of interact with Springles, I think is the way to think of this, right? So they increased the range armor on battering rams. They also buffed Mangonels. Roboticans got some tweaks as well. Like, overall, it seemed like the play was towards not messing with Springles just yet. It feels like they're not comfortable with saying outright that Springles are broken. I don't agree with that take, personally. I think Springles are incredibly powerful right now. But it seems like their mindset is they kind of want to focus on Springles being countered by other siege weapons, which that was already the meta, folks. That was like literally the meta was I counter Springles with Springles, and whoever has more wins until someone gets Horsemen. And now the Horsemen being nerfed means Springles are going to be even stronger. Those Springles are starting to move out. So Dick Remember, he can build the Springles in the field, but he just doesn't have the resource count right now. Suffering on that front because he went so hard in the men-at-arms. And now the Springles, with that superior range, can start to snipe these boys out. Remember, they move slow, and as soon as they have to retreat, this is where the problems are encountered. Because the Palace Guard can chase you down. So we're forced to engage. He should have committed with this wraparound with the men-at-arms. But the problem is the Springles move quicker than man-at-arms now. 1.2 compared to the 1.12 movement speed means that he can never actually catch these Springles when they retreat. And this is where Dick needs some sort of transition. It's not good enough that you get these men-at-arms out and that's it. Yes, it was a great start. Well done. Round of applause. Fantastic. But you need something better. You need an additional solution. Whether it's something along the lines of horsemen, whether it's going for some type of archer unit, maybe crossbows. Like, you need a way of either getting through the Palace Guard and continue to chase, or you need a way of just closing immediately onto the Springles. Berry bushes continue to be milked. And with this type of slow-moving pressure that DeMuslim has right now, the problem I do see is Dick doesn't have any forward kind of movement, right? He's always pushing further back behind his base, which means his central economy, or his central production at least, is always going to be exposed. And it means that DeMuslim is exploiting this, right? He's never pressured in his own base. He doesn't have any weird slog that he has to go through because there's a forward base from Dick or anything. He's just able to move straight round onto the back line, and he's doing exactly that. And Dick doesn't see this. They're hidden right now, so he's going to find the wood line and the food line as well. And remember, these Palace Guard move much quicker than the villagers. The villagers moving at 1.29 compared to the 1.38. Words are hard, folks. And so is keeping your villagers alive. Man-at-arms trying to move. He hasn't moved people off the berry bushes yet. And that's going to be a problem. They're all stacked here. Oh, no. Dick. That's the type of move that he's going to refer to what DeMuslim's doing here, because so many villagers are caught out. And it will scare away the second group of Palace Guard, but the primary one is still a concern. Now, Dick, down to 53 compared to 54. DeMuslim now taking the eco lead. And still, he is being kited, and Dick still refusing to transition, finally gets the stables down, but what's going to be the solution here? Straight into Lancers, finally. He needed something here. He was getting bled dry slowly by DeMuslim. DeMuslim is now going to start to be one forced to kind of transition. And I don't think he can continue the Springle production hardcore, right? He's up to 4 now, but he hasn't gone to an overwhelming quantity at this stage. And keep in mind, on the exit, DeMuslim did see the stables, so he knows what his opponent is doing. A few Palace Guards still in. The Anarchy. They're getting their value. Over and more so, right? And this is also punishment for Dick not going for Textiles. Textiles would have kept so many more of these villagers alive. Like, actually, I think if he had Textiles, Dick probably has at least 10 additional workers at this stage. His eco lines are so spread and so vulnerable. And when Men-at-Arms is all he has to defend them, he has no excuse for not going Textiles. Knowing that your reactionary force, your defense force is this slow, you should have reacted by making your villagers more tanky. And this is the price you pay for not doing exactly that. As you'll finally corner the Palace Guard, but the Palace Guard corner the villagers as well, so they'll get the value. And he'll chase the rest of the Palace Guards out of the base with his very slow-moving Men-at-Arms. Folks, this is how you use Palace Guard. Honestly, I see too many Chinese players skipping right past it, ignoring their existence. Do not ignore the existence of Palace Guard. They are absolutely amazing. Yes, they will get rinsed if someone goes Longbowman. Crossbowman, yes and no, in my opinion, because you gap close so quickly. It's not the Men-at-Arms factor. It's something different. Men-at-Arms, if you want to rush them early, you need something else. Men-at-Arms are simply a front line, a slow-moving front line. But if you are playing China, Palace Guard are their own skirmishing unit, and they should be respected as so. So, DeMuslim, all this while, not pressuring his base, hasn't built up the biggest Springwood army, continues to spam out the racks, though. He's all in on this Palace Guard maneuver. And while this is happening, remember, he has begun the tech up. He's going for Spirit Way here. And that means he'll unlock all the Dynasty-type units. This does mean he could get his hands on the Fire Lancers. We've seen them be super effective in these engagements. Grenadiers is a potential option as well. I just don't know if you want to go that way against Men-at-Arms. We'll have to see. I think the problem with Grenadiers as a solution is they are quite expensive, so I don't expect to see them. Men-at-Arms army moving across. The General is on horseback. Only one Lancer. Only one Lancer ever. And so many Men-at-Arms, though. Look at this. Whoa. Guys, this is a lot. It's 55. And he didn't build Nest of Bees. He only built Springolds. And this might be a mistake. DeMuslim, he could rectify this now. He could probably get 1 or 2 of these Clock Tower Nest of Bees out. I think that would be the play. He needs more gold right now as his limitation. He needs to protect his eco. Dick. He says, karma's a bitch. as he moves straight in. He's trying to get on top of the Springles, so he's not prioritizing the eco lines, but he's going to cut them off now. And DeMuslim is going to lose a lot of his villagers trying to retreat back here. Imperial officials exposed as well. One more tap to bring them down. Springles still retreating through. And this crawl and retreat is not effective enough. There's just too much health on these men-at-arms. Palace Guard holds them at the choke point. Villagers going to the TC. The wraparound now, the flanking attack. Springles have to continue moving. The range on these men-at-arms to hit him with a burn attack, so the Springles are not lasting long. And the Palace Guard, they're starting to just get wrecked through here as they evaporate in the face of all of these men-at-arms. Some of them are just going to divert towards the eco lines. Springles will continue to be pursued. Although it takes him ages to reach him, the Muslim now in a world of pain. He never went for these Nesta Bees, right? He doesn't actually have a solution or a way of defending himself right now. And that creates a ginormous question mark. What do you do right now? DeMuslim, eco count down to 50. Dick recovered up to 64. Palace Guard count just really is not there right now. He sacrificed too many of these in a weird way. And it seemed like a good idea. Maybe if he had Nesta Bees here, it would have been a good idea. But because he only had Springles, he is suffering. And DeMuslim, I mean, he's not tapping out, but I've got to question why. Like, how are you going to keep this going right now? One contingent of Palace Guard left. Villagers are going to move out. DeMuslim, remember, he did reach Imperial Age, so if he can reach some sort of qualitative state, he's going to have the advantage. He just doesn't have the resource income to do so right now. He's completely capped on the gold front, which is why he moves the villagers back out. So he plays a game of Ring of Roses. He drags the man-at-arms away from the eco lines, and now he's going to get as much gold as possible to try and replace his army and upgrade it into elite Palace Guard status. We'll have to see if he can get there. Because remember, this whole time, Dick's been trickling in more of these troops. He never stopped producing the men-at-arms. He knows he has to win it now because he knows if he goes away, if he leaves this base, then he will be at a distinct disadvantage in terms of technology and thus quality of troops. Palace Guard trying to buy more time. Still no research. He just doesn't have the gold. Remember, it's 700 gold required. DeMuslim still hasn't got the mount together. And, of course, I don't know if he's going to even be able to at this rate. Like, he keeps producing so many Palace Guard, right, that he's stopping him from reaching that threshold. Most of the Palace Guard in the base have been sniped out. More or less like a baited ball right now. Dick just being dragged left, right, and center by this Palace Guard. Men-at-arms will pick their way back towards the goal line. They find it again. They say, I know what you're up to. Not today, DeMuslim. DeMuslim has a hard choice now. He could go for the upgrade if he get the food, but he doesn't have enough men-at-arms, so he's going to have to double down on even more men-at-arms, more Palace Guard, rather, and I think that is going to be the reason he's going to lose this game. He can't reach the quality, he cannot get the Nesta Bees, he cannot get enough troops out, and that should give Dick the advantage because his economy is growing, and so is his military force, while DeMuslim continues to stagnate. That should be the GG moment, as it looks like he's given up. His farmers aren't even walking back to base, they need to get some food if they can, which they won't. And DeMuslim, I love the early game aggression. Really nice move out of the Palace Guard, but no follow-through will give Dick the edge and will give him the game. As a non-stop spam of man-at-arms, although they may be slow, are quite effective when you have nowhere left to run.